Tom, I've been thinking about something lately. We often say, I wish I had started earlier, whether it's learning English, playing guitar, or changing careers. It's like we're haunted by the clock.
Oh, absolutely. People love to measure progress by age. I'm too old to learn. It's too late to change. But here's the truth time doesn't stop when you do nothing. So why not use it for something that grows you?
Exactly. Think about it. 5 years from now, you'll either have done it or you won't, but the years will pass anyway. So, what really matters isn't when you start, it's that you start.
That's powerful. And actually, I want everyone listening to pause for a second. What's that thing you've been wanting to start but keep postponing? Maybe it's improving your English. Maybe it's writing. Maybe it's fitness. Whatever it is, keep it in your mind throughout this episode.
Because today, we're going to talk about what happens when you finally stop saying someday and start saying today.
And we'll show you step by step how it's never too late, not just as a nice phrase, but as something real you can live by.
Right? Because when you think about it, too late is just a story your mind tells you, and we can rewrite that story anytime.
So get comfortable. Whether you're walking, driving, or just lying on the couch, this one's going to feel personal.
Let's begin with a simple truth. Starting late doesn't mean starting behind. It means starting ready.
I like that. You've lived, failed, learned, loved. All those experiences become tools. A 40-year-old who decides to learn English isn't at a disadvantage. They've got emotional depth, patience, and stories to tell.
Yes. And language isn't about age. It's about connection. You can learn to say, I love you, I'm proud of myself, or I'm learning at any age. That's not late, that's alive.
I once met a man in his 60s who started learning English just to talk with his granddaughter, who lived abroad. He didn't care about grammar or perfection. He just wanted to say, I miss you in her language.
That's beautiful. And that's what we forget. Starting something new isn't about catching up, it's about showing up.
Exactly. You don't start because you're behind, you start because you're still here.
So if you've ever told yourself, it's too late, I want you to hear this clearly. It's not. You haven't missed your chance. You're standing right at the beginning of it.
And by the end of this episode, we'll help you see that starting now, wherever you are, isn't just possible. It's powerful.
So, Tom, maybe we should start with where this too late idea even comes from.
Let's do that. Because once we understand the story behind it, it's easier to change the ending.
Tom, this too late idea, it doesn't come from reality. It comes from comparison.
Right. You see someone younger doing what you want to do, and suddenly your mind whispers, you missed your chance. But here's the thing their path isn't yours.
Exactly. We compare beginnings to middles all the time. Someone else is fluent in English, and you're just starting, so you feel behind. But what you don't see is their years of quiet practice, their mistakes, their slow progress.
Yeah, it's like watching a movie halfway through and thinking you know the whole story. You don't. You're just seeing the highlight reel.
I once read a story about a woman who learned to read at 75. She said, I used to feel embarrassed walking past bookstores. Now I walk in. That hit me hard.
That's powerful because the fear of starting late is really the fear of being seen as a beginner again.
Totally. It's not the learning that scares people, it's the feeling of being behind. But what if we stopped measuring progress by how long it takes and started measuring it by how alive it makes us feel?
I love that because learning, whether it's English or anything else, isn't about speed. It's about discovery. Every new word, every new sentence, every, oh, now I get it moment is a spark of life.
Yes. And think about how kids learn. They don't care how long it takes to speak their first full sentence, they're just curious. Adults forget that. We start counting instead of feeling.
And we make excuses. I'm too busy. I'm too old. I'm not good with languages. But if we really look closely, those excuses are just fear wearing a polite mask.
That's true. Fear always sounds reasonable, but every person who's ever achieved something big had to start exactly where you are, at the beginning with doubt.
So maybe the question isn't, is it too late, but what would happen if I started today?
Yes, because the moment you begin, something changes. You stop being the person who wishes and become the person who acts.
That's a powerful shift. You don't need to become fluent overnight or run a marathon next week. You just need to begin. And that small start, saying one English phrase, writing one page, taking one walk, creates momentum.
Momentum beats motivation every time. You don't have to feel ready. You just have to move.
Exactly. And here's the secret: once you move, readiness follows. And
I love that. So, if you're listening right now and you've been holding yourself back, this is your invitation. Start messy, start scared, start small, but start.
because you'll never look back and regret starting. You'll only regret not doing it sooner.
That's the truth. And in the next part, I want us to talk about something practical, what starting actually looks like when you're not 20 anymore.
Perfect. Because the way you start at 40 or 50, or even 70, isn't the same as at 20. It's wiser, more intentional.
Exactly. It's not about chasing youth. It's about embracing your moment.
Let's talk about that next.
So, let's talk about what starting looks like when you're not 20 anymore. Because the truth is, it's different, but in a good way.
Yeah, when you're older, you usually don't start out of pressure. You start out of purpose. You're not chasing grades or approval anymore. You're chasing meaning.
Exactly. A young learner might study English to pass an exam, but someone starting later, they do it to connect with their kids, with travel, with new people, with themselves.
And that gives you a huge advantage because when your reason is emotional, not external, it sticks.
Right? You don't give up after a bad day because you know why you're doing it. And that why becomes stronger than any how.
I remember my aunt learning English in her 50s. She wasn't doing it for work. She just wanted to understand her favorite songs without translation. She'd write down lyrics, one line a day.
That's beautiful. And it's such a great example of how starting small can still be powerful, one lyric at a time. And soon, she wasn't just learning words, she was feeling them.
Exactly, because learning later in life isn't about rushing, it's about savoring. You have perspective now. You can notice details a younger version of you would have ignored.
You know what I think? When you start something new later in life, you're not really starting from zero. You're starting from experience.
That's a great point. You've already failed before, succeeded before, recovered before. You know how to keep going when things get hard. That's a skill in itself.
Totally. And that's something younger learners don't always have, the patience to persist through slow progress.
Yeah, and it's funny. People worry that their memory isn't as sharp as before, but their focus, discipline, and motivation are often much stronger.
And English isn't just about memory, it's about connection, emotion, storytelling. You already have all that. You just need to give it a voice in a new language.
That's so true, because fluency isn't just saying words correctly, it's saying yourself clearly.
I love that. And you can do that at any age. You can start at 60 and still learn to say, I'm proud of who I'm becoming.
That's powerful, and it reminds me starting late doesn't mean you're behind others. It means you're finally walking your own path.
Yes. And maybe that's what makes late beginnings so special. They're not about catching up, they're about waking up.
Exactly. You're no longer starting because you should, you're starting because you want to.
And that kind of start, the one that comes from desire, not pressure, that's the one that lasts.
I think in the next part, we should dig into the psychology of this, like how to break through that I'm too old mindset, practically day by day.
Perfect. Because believing it's not too late is one thing, feeling it is another.
Let's help people feel it. And
So, how do you actually break through that I'm too old mindset? Because it's not enough to hear it's never too late. You need to feel it, right?
absolutely. And that feeling comes from action, not just motivation. You can't think your way out of fear. You have to move your way out.
Exactly. The longer you stay in your head, the louder the doubts become. But once you take even the smallest step, the noise quiets down.
I think the first step is to stop labeling yourself. If you say, I'm old, your brain starts acting like it's true. If you say, I'm learning, your brain opens up.
That's so true. Labels become self fulfilling. Instead of, I'm too old to learn English, try, I'm learning English at my own pace. It changes everything.
And notice how the second one feels lighter. It gives you permission to be in progress instead of in judgment.
I remember a listener once wrote to us and said, I started learning English at 52, and at first I felt embarrassed to make mistakes. But then I realized even babies make mistakes when they learn to talk. Why should I be different?
That's it. We all want fluency without the awkward stage, but there's no shortcut. You have to be willing to sound silly before you sound smooth.
And that takes courage. But it's a kind of courage that grows with age, the courage to not care what others think.
Yes, when you're younger, you worry about being judged. When you're older, you realize most people are too busy worrying about themselves to notice your mistakes anyway.
Exactly. And mistakes are signs of effort, not failure. If you're making them, it means you're learning.
Here's a simple trick I give my students. Whenever you catch yourself thinking, I'm too old, add the word yet. As in, I'm not fluent yet. It turns a closed door into an open one.
That's brilliant. And another mindset shift I love is this: stop thinking of yourself as a beginner. Think of yourself as a beginner again.
Hoo, I like that. Beginner again has energy, curiosity, and pride in it. You've started before, you know how. This is just a new chapter.
Exactly. And the moment you allow yourself to start again, you become unstoppable.
So, if you're listening right now, here's a small challenge. Instead of asking, can I still do it? Ask, what could happen if I did?
Beautiful. Because that question invites possibility, and possibility is what keeps us alive.
I love that. And I think in the next part, we should talk about how to build that momentum, how to stay consistent when you've already got a busy life, responsibilities, and maybe a little doubt left over.
Perfect. Because starting is brave, but continuing is where the real transformation happens.
Let's go there next.
So, Tom, let's talk about what happens after you start. Because that's where most people stumble. Not at the first step, but the fifth or the 50th.
True. The excitement fades, life gets busy, and suddenly that beautiful new habit, learning, exercising, reading, starts slipping away.
Right. And when that happens, people often think, see, I knew I couldn't keep it up. But that's not failure. That's just life being life.
Exactly. The difference between people who keep going and people who stop isn't talent. It's forgiveness.
Forgiveness, yes. Being kind to yourself when you miss a day, when you mess up, when you forget a word. That's what keeps you in the game.
Because progress isn't a straight line. It's a dance, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, sometimes a pause, but you're still moving.
I love that. A dance. And sometimes the music slows down, but it never stops completely unless you decide it does.
And consistency doesn't mean doing it every single day without fail. It means coming back again and again, like a friend who always returns.
Exactly. If you're learning English, that might mean 5 minutes of listening on your commute, or speaking one sentence out loud while you cook. Tiny things, done often.
And those tiny things are magic. They don't look like much in the moment, but they add up quietly. One day you realize you understand a movie scene without subtitles, or someone compliments your pronunciation, and that's when it clicks.
Yes, and those moments are gold. They remind you why you started.
I think that's another key. Celebrating small wins. You learned 5 new words? Great. You understood a podcast segment? Amazing. You made a mistake but kept speaking anyway? That's progress.
Because success isn't one big explosion of achievement, it's a slow burn that keeps you warm.
And you don't have to do it alone. Find a partner, a friend, a community, someone to remind you that your progress matters.
Like our listeners here. We've seen so many of them start late and flourish just by showing up every week and listening to Easylish.
Yeah, I remember one listener wrote, I started learning at 47, and now I can chat with tourists in my city. I still make mistakes, but I'm not scared anymore. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. It's not about perfection, it's about connection. You don't need flawless grammar to make someone smile or to share your story.
And honestly, once you stop chasing perfect and start chasing progress, learning becomes joyful again.
That's when the pressure lifts and you realize you're not late. You're right on time.
I love that. Right on time.
So, in the next part, let's talk about something that ties it all together: how late beginnings can actually inspire others.
Oh, yes, because every time someone starts, they unknowingly give permission for others to start too.
Exactly. One brave start can ripple into many.
Let's dive into that next.
You know what I find amazing, Tom? How one person's decision to start, no matter their age, can light something up in others.
Totally, it's like a quiet spark that spreads. You see someone older learning English or taking their first dance class or posting their first YouTube video, and suddenly you think, wait, maybe I could do that too.
Exactly. Because courage is contagious. When you see someone start from where they are, not where they should have been, it gives you permission to do the same.
I remember this older man at a cafe I used to go to. Every morning, he'd sit with his phone and practice English on an app. One day I asked him, why now? He smiled and said, because now is what I have.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. And that's the kind of wisdom only experience gives you. When you realize that waiting for the perfect time is just another way of saying never.
Right. The perfect time doesn't exist. The right time is always the moment you decide to begin.
And when you begin, you quietly tell the people around you, it's okay to start too, even if you don't mean to. Your example becomes an invitation.
Exactly. Think about kids watching their parents or grandparents learning something new. They grow up believing that learning never stops. That curiosity isn't just for the young.
That's so true. I once taught a woman in her 60s who joined my class with her teenage granddaughter. At first, she felt shy and kept apologizing for her accent. But after a few weeks, the granddaughter said, "Grandma, you inspire me." And she meant it.
That's incredible. Because when we talk about being too late, we forget how powerful it is to model perseverance. When someone sees you learning late, they see what's possible beyond excuses.
Exactly. And it's not about being perfect, it's about being willing. That's what people notice. Not your grammar, not your mistakes, your willingness.
And that willingness can change a family, a classroom, a whole community. It's like saying, look, I'm scared too, but I'm doing it anyway.
I love that. Because when you start late, you don't just rewrite your own story, you open the door for others to rewrite theirs.
And you know what? That's legacy, not the kind you leave behind when you're gone, but the kind you build while you're still here, through your courage to begin again.
That's such a beautiful way to think of it. Every time you start, you're not just adding a skill, you're adding light to the world.
Exactly. And in the next part, maybe we can talk about how to keep that light alive, how to protect that motivation when doubt creeps back in.
Perfect. Because even the strongest flame needs a little care to keep burning.
Let's talk about how to do that next.
So, Tom, let's talk about how to keep that light alive, how to stay motivated when the excitement fades and the doubts start whispering again.
Because they will whisper. You're not improving fast enough. You'll never be fluent. You should have started earlier. That inner voice can be brutal sometimes.
Yes, but here's the trick. You don't silence that voice. You talk back to it. You say, I'm still here. I'm still learning, because showing up is louder than doubt.
Exactly. Motivation comes and goes, but identity stays. Once you start seeing yourself as someone who learns, you don't need motivation to keep going. You just keep showing up because it's who you are.
I love that. It's not, I want to learn English. It's, I'm a learner. A small shift, but a huge difference.
And whenever you hit those low points, and everyone does, look for small reminders of progress. Listen to a podcast you couldn't understand 6 months ago. Read an old notebook and realize how far your writing has come.
Yes, progress hides in plain sight. It's in the sentences you no longer translate, the words that now come naturally, the moments you laugh at English jokes without thinking.
I think sometimes we underestimate slow growth because it's quiet. But quiet growth is still growth.
Exactly. Flowers don't make noise when they bloom, but they still bloom.
Beautifully said. And honestly, learning, especially when you start later, becomes less about reaching a goal and more about becoming a version of yourself that keeps expanding.
Yes, you start realizing I'm not just learning English, I'm proving to myself that I can change, that I'm capable, that I'm alive.
And that's what makes it powerful. It's not about how many words you know, it's about how many walls you break inside yourself.
I love that because every time you sit down to study, even for 5 minutes, you're telling your brain, I still believe in me.
And that belief, that's the real engine. You can't buy it, you can't borrow it. You build it one small choice at a time.
So when you feel like giving up, remind yourself, you've already started. You've already done the hardest part.
Exactly. Starting is the heavy lift. Continuing just means keeping your feet moving, even slowly.
And if you ever feel stuck, come back to your why. Ask yourself, why did I begin? Who am I becoming through this?
Because when your reason is clear, your energy follows.
Yes. And in our final part, I think we should close with that idea, how to redefine success when you start late, and how to make peace with your own timing.
Perfect. Because maybe the biggest lesson isn't about learning fast, it's about learning deeply in your own time.
Exactly. Let's finish there. You know, Tom, I think the most beautiful thing about starting late is that it changes what success means.
Definitely. When you're young, success feels like a race. How fast you can reach the goal, how much you can achieve before time runs out. But when you start later, you realize the goal isn't the finish line, it's the feeling.
Yes, the feeling of growing, of surprising yourself, of being proud that you didn't give up on learning just because the calendar said you were too late.
It's like walking on a quiet road instead of sprinting a track. You begin to enjoy the view, not just the destination.
Exactly. You listen more deeply. You appreciate small victories. You stop comparing. You start realizing that success is simply becoming someone who tries again.
And that's something age gives you humility. You're no longer trying to impress anyone, you're trying to fulfill something inside yourself.
right? It's like saying, I may not be young, but I'm still becoming, because becoming never stops.
That's it. You're never finished growing until you stop allowing yourself to grow.
And learning English, or anything really, becomes a way of proving that it's still possible to create something new out of your life, even now, especially now.
I once read a line that said, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
I love that quote, because today is always available. You can't go back and start earlier, but you can start better, with more heart, more patience, and more gratitude.
And honestly, that makes all the difference. The person you are now, the one with scars, with stories, with resilience, that's the perfect person to begin.
So, to everyone listening, whether you're 25 or 75, start. Start small, start scared, start quietly if you have to, but start.
Because when you start, you shift from regret to possibility. And from that moment on, life begins to open again.
You don't need to be fluent tomorrow. You just need to be brave today.
Exactly. Every step you take builds a future version of you who's grateful you didn't wait any longer.
So maybe we'll end with this thought. It's never too late to start, and it's always too early to give up.
Beautiful.
Thanks for being here with us today, wherever you are in your journey.
And remember, your timing is perfect just because it's yours.
This is Easylish, where English and life get a little easier, one real story at a time.
We'll see you next time. And until then, keep learning, keep believing, and keep starting.
Because it's never too late.